Despite lasting 6 months and claiming to be an in-depth investigation, the inquest failed to find answers to many basic questions regarding Henri Paul. If he really was a chronic alcoholic, this would have been diagnosed during the stringent medical examination he underwent 3 days before the crash while renewing his pilot's license. But he passed the medical with flying colours. So why wasn't the doctor who gave him a clean bill of health called to the inquest or ever interviewed by the police? Why did Britain's top policeman, Lord Stevens, tell Henri Paul's parents in 2006, in front of other policemen who kept a written record of the conversation, that their son was definitely not drunk?
He asserted that Henri was not drunk on the evening of the accident and that he was driving at a lower speed than indicated in the French proceedings.
That is totally what Mr. Stevens told us.
Yet 6 weeks later, Lord Stevens published a report claiming that Henri Paul was drunk. So, who was lying, Lord Stevens or Lord Stevens? After the crash, the police searched Henri Paul's apartment twice.
2 searches were made of Henri Paul's home by the French police. More alcohol was recorded as discovered on the second search than on the first.
The first time, all the police found was an unopened bottle of champagne and a quarter bottle of martini, which hardly supports the claim that he was an alcoholic. So the police returned a few days later. And, would you believe it, this time they claimed to have found enough alcohol to stock an entire bar. Beer, wine, Ricard, bourbon, vodka, port, champagne, cassis, Pinot...
There is no obvious explanation for this. You must consider whether there are any sinister implications.
Some might say that, on the contrary, there is a very obvious explanation, and that its implications are very sinister indeed. The inquest heard undisputed evidence of Henri Paul's links to the French Secret Services, the Direction de la Surveillance du Territoire, and to Britain's MI6.
I just remember reading this file and thinking it was interesting that, first of all, they had a Frenchman working for MI6, because it's actually quite rare to find someone who is French who prepared to work for MI6, because they quite often don't. And secondly, because I'm a pilot myself, I remember this particular person having an interest in flying.
So why did the coroner tell the jury in his summing up that Henri Paul had no links to the security services? Henri Paul's bank accounts show he received a total of 350,000 French francs of unexplained income during the final months of his life, mostly from checks. Why didn't the inquest establish who had written those checks, or examine the transactions made on Henri Paul's 5 credit cards, or allow the jury to see his mobile phone records? Why did Henri Paul go missing from the hotel for 7 minutes at 10:36? Was he meeting an accomplice in the Place Vendôme? What about the gesture that Henri Paul made outside the Ritz moments before driving off in the Mercedes? Was it a signal to an accomplice? If the inquest had failed to answer 1 or 2 of these simple questions, you might put it down to incompetence. But its failure even to ask many of them can only have happened because the authorities already knew the answers and wanted to keep them hidden. Henri Paul was not drunk and was working for the Secret Services on the night that he died.